Have you ever noticed how tightly we hold on to things that no longer serve us? Just the other day, I was watching a child at the beach. She had found a beautiful seashell and clutched it in her tiny fist, refusing to let go even when her mother showed her an even more spectacular one. Her knuckles were white from gripping so hard, tears forming in her eyes from the internal struggle between wanting the new shell and being unable to release the old one. In that moment, I saw myself. I saw all of us. We're all that little girl sometimes, aren't we? Holding on to memories, grudges, old beliefs, failed relationships, or past mistakes with such intensity that our souls are literally exhausted from the effort. Our hands are so full of yesterday that we have no room to grasp the gifts of today. You know what I mean, don't you? That conversation from 5 years ago that still plays in your mind like a broken record. That relationship that ended poorly, and you keep wondering what you could have done differently. That career decision you second guess every time things get tough. That moment when someone hurts you so deeply that you built walls to make sure it never happened again. I remember meeting a man in Detroit back in 2010. Let's call him Robert. He was successful by every external measure, the corner office, the expensive suit, the prestigious title. They were heavy with the weight of something he'd been carrying for decades. Over coffee, he shared how his father had told him at age 12 that he'd never amount to anything. You're just like your uncle, his father had said, all dreams and no action. Robert spent the next 30 years proving his father wrong. He worked 16-hour days, sacrificed his health, his relationships, everything to prove that one person wrong. When I met him, he had finally achieved everything he thought he wanted, but he was empty inside. His entire life had been a reaction to one moment, one sentence spoken by someone who was probably fighting their own battles. But here's what's fascinating. That moment, Robert's father spoke those words. It was like a photographer taking a snapshot. Robert took that single frame and turned it into a movie that played on repeat for 30 years. He gave a moment the power to become a lifetime. Think about your own life for a moment. What snapshots are you turning into movies? What single frames are you allowing to define your entire story? You see, the past isn't actually a place. It's a thought occurring in the present moment. Every time we remember something, we're not actually experiencing the past. We're creating a new thought in the now. It's like watching a rerun of an old TV show. The original broadcast happened years ago, but every time you watch it, you're having a new experience in the present moment. The truth that changed everything for me came through understanding this. Holding on to the past isn't actually protecting us from anything. It's like carrying an umbrella indoors because it rained last week. It might make us feel safer, but it's also preventing us from fully experiencing the present moment. I learned this lesson profoundly during a retreat in New Mexico in 2008. We were asked to write down our deepest hurts, our biggest regrets, our most painful memories on pieces of paper. Then, one by one, we were invited to approach a fire pit. As I stood there holding my papers, I realized something that shook me to my core. These memories weren't protecting me. They were imprisoning me. Every grudge I held was like a chain around my own neck. Every regret was a wall I had built between myself and joy. When I dropped those papers into the fire, I didn't just watch papers burn. I watched my prison walls crumble. And in that moment, I understood that forgiveness isn't about condoning what happened. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of carrying it. You see, we often think letting go means we're saying what happened was okay. We think holding on to pain somehow honors our suffering or prevents future hurt. But that's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. The only person we hurt by not letting go is ourselves. Let me share something with you that might shift your perspective entirely. Imagine you're carrying a hot coal. It's burning your hand, causing intense pain. Would you keep holding it because someone else threw it at you? Would you grip it tighter because you're angry at the person who gave it to you? Of course not. You'd drop it immediately. Yet this is exactly what we do with emotional pain. We hold on to it, letting it burn us again and again, thinking somehow this punishes the person who hurt us. The reality is, The person who hurt you might not even remember what they did. They might be living their life completely unaware of the coal you're still holding. Meanwhile, you're the one getting burned day after day. But I can hear some of you thinking, you don't understand my situation. What happened to me was too big, too painful to just let go. I hear you. I really do. And you're right. Some hurts are so deep they become part of our identity. We build our entire personality around them, like a pearl forms around a grain of sand. But here's the question. Is that identity serving you? Is it leading you toward joy, toward peace, toward the life you truly want to live? You know, I spent years studying people who seem naturally happy, people who move through life with a kind of lightness that I envied. And I noticed something fascinating. These people weren't necessarily the ones with the easiest lives. They had experienced loss, faced challenges, and endured pain just like everyone else. The difference was in how they carried their experiences. I remember meeting Sarah in 2011 at a small diner in Minnesota. She had lost her husband and teenage son in a car accident 5 years earlier. The kind of tragedy that most of us can't even bear to think about. But there she was, serving coffee with a genuine smile, asking customers about their day, and radiating a peace that seemed almost impossible given her story. After her shift, she shared something I'll never forget. She said, for the first year after they died, I died too. I kept reliving that day, torturing myself with what ifs. What if I had asked them to leave later? What if I had gone with them? I was so focused on the past that I couldn't see the present slipping away. Then one morning, I heard birds singing outside my window. It was the first time I had noticed birdsong in months. And I realized my boys wouldn't want this for me. They lived life so fully, so joyfully. By refusing to live in the present, I wasn't honoring their memory. I was betraying everything they stood for. Sarah's story teaches us something profound about the nature of letting go. It's not about forgetting. It's not about diminishing what happened. It's about choosing to live fully in the present moment while carrying the love and lessons of the past. Think about water for a moment. When you try to grab it, to hold it tight, it slips through your fingers. But when you open your palm, it can rest there peacefully. Our memories, our experiences, our past, they're like that water. The tighter we try to grip them, the more they elude us. But when we open ourselves to the present moment, we can hold both our past and our present with grace. I've worked with thousands of people over the years, and I've noticed that we often confuse letting go with losing control. We think if we stop replaying the past, if we stop analyzing every detail, we'll somehow be more vulnerable to future hurt. But here's the truth. Holding on to the past doesn't protect us from future pain. It prevents us from present joy. When you're driving a car, how often do you look in the rearview mirror compared to the windshield? The rearview mirror is smaller for a reason. You glance at it occasionally to stay aware of your surroundings, but if you spent most of your time staring into it, you'd crash. Your life works the same way. The past is there to inform you, not consume you. Let me share a powerful exercise I learned from a wise teacher in 2007. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Now become aware of any tension in your body. Notice how much of that tension is connected to thoughts about the past or worries about the future. Notice how much of your energy is spent holding on to things that aren't happening right now. Most of us are carrying around a heavy backpack filled with past hurts, regrets, and resentments. We've been carrying it for so long that we've forgotten we can put it down. We've forgotten how to walk without its weight. We've forgotten how to dance freely in the present moment. But here's something remarkable about the present moment. It's the only place where change is possible. You can't change the past, no matter how much you analyze it or replay it. You can't change the future by worrying about it. The only moment where you have any power is right now. I worked with a woman named Margaret who had spent 20 years being angry at her mother. Every conversation, every interaction was colored by past hurts and disappointments. One day, she realized that she had never seen her mother as she was in the present moment. She had been so busy reacting to the mother of her memories that she couldn't see the woman sitting right in front of her, a woman who had also grown, changed, and learned over those 20 years. When Margaret finally let go of her old narrative and started seeing her mother in the present moment, their relationship transformed. Not because her mother changed, but because Margaret stopped projecting the past onto the present. This is what letting go really means. It means stopping the constant projection of past experiences onto present moments. It means seeing things and people as they are now, not as they were then. It means trading our old stories for new possibilities. But let me be clear, letting go is not a one-time event. It's not like taking out the trash where you do it once and it's done. It's more like breathing. You have to do it continuously, consciously, consistently. Every time an old hurt resurfaces, every time a painful memory tries to hijack your present moment, you have the opportunity to practice letting go again. And here's something beautiful about this practice. Every time you choose to let go, you become more skilled at it. Every time you choose the present moment over past pain, you strengthen your ability to live fully in the now. It's like building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. I remember working with a group in Seattle back in 2009. We did an exercise where everyone wrote down what they thought their life would look like if they weren't carrying their past hurts. The answers were extraordinary. People wrote about feeling lighter, freer, more open to love. They wrote about having more energy, more creativity, more joy. They wrote about finally being able to be fully present with their children, their partners, their friends. Let me tell you about something that happened at a small coffee shop in the heart of a bustling city. I noticed a young woman sitting alone, tears streaming down her face as she stared at her phone. The scene was so raw, so human, that I felt compelled to reach out. She shared with me that she had just discovered old photos on her phone, images from a relationship that had ended painfully. She had thought she was over it, had convinced herself she had moved on, but those images had pulled her right back into that space of hurt and loss. What she said next struck me deeply. I feel stupid for still caring, for still hurting. Shouldn't I be over this by now? How many of us have asked ourselves that same question? We put these arbitrary timelines on our healing, these expectations of when we should be over. But healing isn't linear, and there's no universal schedule for letting go. The truth is, we're not meant to get over our experiences, we're meant to grow through them. Every experience, every relationship, every loss, every triumph becomes part of our story. But there's a profound difference between letting an experience be part of your story and letting it become your whole story. I once worked with someone at a retreat who shared something that changed my entire perspective on letting go. He was a collector of antique watches, and he told me how he used to keep them all in a safe, protecting them from any possible damage. One day, his granddaughter asked to see them. And as he was showing her, she asked, "But when do you wear them?" He realized he had become so focused on preserving these precious things that he had forgotten their purpose, to be worn, to be used, to mark the passing of precious time. Isn't that what we do with our hearts sometimes? We keep them locked away in the safe of past experiences, thinking we're protecting ourselves from future hurt. But in doing so, we forget that our hearts, like those watches, were meant to be used to mark the passing of precious moments, to fully experience the present time we're given. Consider this. Every moment you spend replaying the past is a moment you're missing in the present. Every second spent in regret is a second you could be spending in gratitude. Every minute invested in what could have been is a minute stolen from what could be. I witnessed a profound example of this at a beach one evening. A group of children were building an elaborate sandcastle. They spent hours on it, creating towers and moats, decorating it with shells and seaweed. As the tide began to come in, their parents called them to leave. A few of the children became upset, trying desperately to protect their creation from the inevitable waves. But one child stood up, smiled, and started taking pictures of the waves washing over their masterpiece. When asked why she wasn't sad, she said, "Because now we get to build a new one tomorrow." That child understood something many adults forget. The joy wasn't just in the sandcastle itself, but in the act of creating it. The present moment wasn't diminished by the knowledge that it wouldn't last. This is the essence of letting go. Understanding that life is not about holding on to what we create, but about staying open to creating anew in each moment. It's about understanding that every ending creates space for a new beginning. But I hear some of you thinking that's easier said than done. And you're right, letting go is simple, but it isn't easy. It requires tremendous courage. It requires faith in yourself and in life. It requires trusting that you can handle whatever comes. Let me share something powerful I learned from a meditation teacher. He said that most people think meditation is about achieving a quiet mind. But true meditation is about becoming comfortable with whatever shows up in your mind. The good, the bad, the painful, the joyful. It's about learning to let thoughts and feelings flow through you without getting stuck to them. This is exactly what we need to learn in life. The art of letting experiences, emotions, and memories flow through us without getting stuck to them. The ability to acknowledge our past without being imprisoned by it. The wisdom to know that every moment is a new opportunity to begin again. Think about the last time you were truly present in a moment. Perhaps it was watching a sunset or holding a loved one's hand or losing yourself in creating something. In that moment, were you thinking about the past? Were you worrying about the future? Or were you simply there, fully alive in that single point in time? That state of presence, that's your natural state. That's who you are when you're not carrying the weight of yesterday. That's the space where true joy lives, where creativity flourishes, where love flows freely. And here's the beautiful truth. That state is always available to you. It's not something you need to achieve. It's something you need to return to by letting go of what's blocking it. Have you ever watched a leaf falling from a tree? It doesn't fight gravity. It doesn't try to climb back up. It dances with the wind, creating the most beautiful patterns as it gradually descends, sometimes rising, sometimes falling, but always in perfect harmony with the moment. That leaf knows something we've forgotten. The art of graceful surrender. I sat with a dying man once. In his final days, he didn't talk about his achievements or possessions. Instead, he spoke about sunrise coffees on his porch, the sound of his children's laughter, the feeling of rain on his face. His eyes filled with tears as he whispered, "I spent so much time chasing tomorrow that I almost missed the miracle of today." Those words haunted me. How many of us are doing exactly that? We're so busy replaying yesterday's hurts or rehearsing tomorrow's worries that we're missing the only moment we're guaranteed, this one right here, right now. You know that heaviness in your chest when you think about something that hurt you? That tightness in your throat when you remember a moment of betrayal or loss? That's not just emotional pain. It's your body literally carrying the weight of the past. Your cells, remember, your muscles hold the tension. Your breath becomes shallow. You're not just thinking about the past. You're reliving it physically and emotionally right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight you're carrying. Really feel it. Where does it sit in your body? In your shoulders, your chest, your stomach? Now imagine that weight is actually made of light. See it begin to glow, softly at first, then brighter and brighter until it becomes almost blinding. Watch as that light begins to float up and away from your body, carrying with it all the heaviness, all the pain, all the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you deserve. Take a deep breath. Feel the space that's left behind. That lightness, that's your natural state. That's who you are without the weight of yesterday. I once watched a mother bird teaching her babies to fly. She didn't give them instructions. She didn't show them a PowerPoint presentation on aerodynamics. She simply created a space where they could discover their own wings. And when they fell, which they did repeatedly, she didn't rush to catch them. She knew that the falling was part of the learning. Isn't it time we learn to trust our own wings? To trust that we can handle the falling? To trust that every failure, every hurt, every loss is not an ending, but a discovery of our own strength. But here's what breaks my heart. I see so many beautiful souls walking around half alive, their spirits dimmed by the weight of past hurts. They built fortress walls around their hearts, thinking they're protecting themselves, never realizing they've become their own jailers. There was a homeless man I used to pass every morning. He carried everything he owned in a shopping cart. Old blankets, torn clothes, crushed cans. One day, someone offered him a place to stay, but he refused to leave his cart. He had become so attached to his burdens that the thought of living without them terrified him. How many of us are like that man, clutching our emotional baggage because we've forgotten how to live without it? Your pain is not your identity. Your hurts are not your home. Your past is not your destiny. Imagine you're standing in a river. The water is flowing past you, constantly changing, constantly moving. Now imagine trying to hold on to a particular portion of that water. Impossible, right? Yet that's exactly what we do with moments in time. We try to grip them, to keep them, to hold them still. But time, like water, is... I want you to do something right now. Stand up. Yes, right now. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the miracle of gravity holding you to this earth. Feel the air moving in and out of your lungs. This is not a metaphor. This is not a visualization. This is your life happening right now in this body, in this moment. Now raise your arms to the sky as high as they can go. Stretch your fingers wide. Feel the space around them. Now slowly, with intention, let your arms float down to your sides. As they fall, imagine you releasing everything you've been holding on to. Every grudge, every regret, every should have been and could have been. Feel the energy tingling in your fingertips. That's not just circulation returning. That's life force, that's vitality, that's the energy that's been locked up in holding on to things that were meant to flow through you. The universe has been trying to teach us this lesson through everything it creates. Watch how clouds don't cling to their shapes. Watch how waves don't try to return to shore. Watch how flowers don't try to hold on to their petals. There's a kind of grace that comes with surrender. Not the surrendered defeat, but the surrendered acceptance. The surrender saying, yes, this happened. Yes, it hurt. And yes, I am still here, still breathing, still capable of joy. Breathe with me for a moment. Feel your chest rise and fall. Each breath is a new beginning. Each exhale is a letting go. Your body has been practicing this wisdom since the moment you were born. Take in what you need. Release what no longer serves you. Inhale possibility. Exhale the past. Look at your hands. These hands that have held so much. Joy and sorrow, hellos and goodbyes, victories and defeats. These hands that have wiped away tears, both yours and others. These hands that have clenched in anger, trembled in fear, reached out in love. What would happen if you simply open them? Sometimes the most profound truths come to us in the simplest moments. I watched a child at a playground crying insolubly over a broken toy. His world had shattered. His grief was absolute. Then something magical happened. A butterfly landed nearby. In an instant, his attention shifted. His tears stopped. The broken toy lay forgotten as he crawled toward this new wonder. Children instinctively know how to move from moment to moment, unburdened by what came before. We weren't born carrying pain. We weren't born with walls around our hearts. We weren't born afraid to trust, afraid to love, afraid to live fully. These are things we learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. The moon doesn't mourn the night when dawn comes. The trees don't grieve their leaves when autumn arrives. The sea doesn't try to hold on to the waves that leave its shores. There's a profound wisdom in nature that we've forgotten. The wisdom of cycles, of letting go, of trusting the flow of life. Feel your heartbeat for a moment. That rhythm has been your companion since before you had memories, before you knew pain, before you learned to hold on to hurt. Each beat is saying, let go, let go, let go. I've seen people transform in a single moment of true letting go. Not through years of therapy, not through countless self-help books, but through one moment of absolute surrender to the present. One moment of saying, I'm done. I'm done carrying this. I'm done letting the past dictate my future. I'm done being a prisoner of my own memories. Your soul knows how to heal. Your heart knows how to love again. Your spirit knows how to soar. The only thing holding you back is your grip on what was. Think of all the sunrises you've missed while staring at the darkness behind you. Think of all the symphonies you haven't heard because you've been replaying old songs. Think of all the love you haven't felt because you've been nursing old wounds. The universe is constantly speaking to us in whispers of now. Now, Every sunset is saying now. Every raindrop is saying now. Every heartbeat is saying now. The present moment isn't just a concept. It's a gift that's being offered to you with every breath. Stand up again. Feel the ground beneath your feet. This is your life. Not the story you keep telling about your life. Not the memory of your life. Not the fear of your life. This moment, this breath, this heartbeat. Raise your arms again. But this time, imagine you're holding everything you've been carrying, all the pain, all the regret, all the should-haves and could-haves. Feel their weight. Really feel it. Let your arms drop. Let it all drop. Feel the lightness. Feel the space that opens up when you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Your past is a place you visited, not a place you live. Your memories are stories you've collected, not chains you must wear. Your hurts are lessons you learn, not brands you must bear. In this moment, right now, you can choose. Choose to see this moment as new, unmarked by the past.